Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This video will be part 2 of a 4-part series where we build a phrase guessing game using Angular. In this video, we will be continuing where we left off in the game and adding the phrase to the web page. If you have not seen the first video in this series, you should pause this video and go watch it first. I will have a link in the description below where you can go check that out. Alright, let's get started. And now the next thing we need to do is display the random phrase for the user to guess. So let's come back to VS Code and we're going to create a property of phrases and just set it equal to 2 random phrases. I'm going to go with hello world and my awesome phrase. I know, super boring. And now we need a method called select random phrase that will select a random phrase from our phrases array and set it to the phrase for the user to choose. And then now we need a current phrase property as well, and we're going to set that to an empty array, and you'll see why we want that to be an array here in a minute. And then let's create a select random phrase method, and we want it to select a random phrase but also loop through each letter in the phrase and push each letter to the current phrase array. So first let's just try doing the first phrase and we'll skip the random part of it for now. So this dot phrases, and we're going to select the first one, and then we will split that string, but we'll just pass it an empty string, which means split every character, and then loop over each letter and then do what's in this arrow function for each letter. So essentially I just want to do this dot current phrase dot push and I have a specific structure here that I've created for this because each letter in the current phrase at some point is going to be hidden, and we also need to account for whether or not it's a space so that we don't need the user to be guessing whether the letter is a space. So I'm going to push an object and it's going to have a value property, and that's going to be the letter. But then also we're going to set hidden to true, but only if it's not a space. So we'll do that, and let me get all that out of the way. This letter is not equal to a space, and if so, we want to hide it. Otherwise, don't hide it. And then the last property is space, and that is just going to be letter triple equals space. So we can see that VS Code here is complaining, and what this actually is because I don't have a type set to the current phrase. So I'm not going to be going over interfaces right now. So we're just going to set this to an any so that we can move on. Okay, and then just to see if this is working, let's console log our random phrase, or the current phrase, at the end of this method. But first, we need to also, in our start game function, call select random phrase. So this dot select random phrase, and then now we can save it and come back to the browser, and we will click start, and in the console we can see that hello world was selected, and here is what it put in the array. So the first one is an H, hidden is true because it is a letter, and is space is false. And then we come down here and we have a space. It's not hidden, and it is in fact a space, so it's true. Now let's display that in the browser. So we'll come back to the HTML, and I'm going to create a div with a class of phrase, and it's going to be an unordered list with LIs for the letters. So we want to show all of the letters in the phrase. So the way we do that is, let's do an ng4, and let's do let letter of current phrase, and set the inner text to letter dot value. So let's come back to the browser, we'll click start, and we can see that we now have list items for the letters in our selected phrase. Now let's go back to our example, and we want to show the letters in a line horizontally like this. So back in VS Code, we want to target the phrase div, and then set the unordered list to display flex, and the li to display block. Let's save that and see what that looks like. So back over here, we'll click start, and we can see that hello world is now displaying horizontally in the browser. Now let's come back to VS Code, and let's do text align center, and let's increase the font size. So let's do font size 32 pixels. And then we need padding around the letters. So let's do padding of 15 pixels. And a background color of, let's just do a light green. And then let's see what that looks like. So coming back to the browser. So now we have the green blocks, but we need to add a little space between them, and then center this up in the browser. Let's come back. Let's do margin 0 for top and bottom, and 5 pixels on the sides. Let's set them all to have the same height and the same width. So a height of 32 pixels and a width of 32 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. So now we can see that the blocks of letters are displaying correctly, but we still need to center this, and these letters should also be hidden, so we need to take care of that. So let's come back to VS Code, and first let's handle the hidden state. So if it has a hidden class, let's set the border, let's do border bottom to 2 pixels solid and black. And then the background color to white. We don't want to see the background color of the letters, or the green background color. So background color is white. And then if it's a space, we don't want the bottom border. We just want the background color to be white. So let's do that. We'll have a class of space on the letter and background color to white. Now if we come back to the browser and click start, we can see that nothing happened. And the reason is we're not actually applying the classes to the letters just yet. So let's come back to VS Code and do an ng class. It takes an object of properties. So first let's do hidden. So we'll do the hidden class if letter dot hidden is true, and then the space class if letter dot is space is true. Let's save that, come back to the browser, click start, and we can now see that the background color is correct, but we can still see the letters. So let's handle that. If we come back to VS Code, let's change the inner text to instead be if letter dot hidden is true, meaning we want to hide the letter. Let's show an empty string. Otherwise, show the letter. So let's save that. And now we can see that nothing is showing, but we should have a bottom border. So let's see what's going on. Back in the Sass, we can see that this should have been border bottom and not bottom bottom. So let's fix that. And save it. And now we can see that the letters are showing up correctly. Let's also go ahead and center this. So let's come back to the Sass, and I really just want to center the entire container. So let's have a max width of 1200 pixels and then a margin of auto. Let's see what that looks like. So that centered the container, and if we come over here we can look and see that the container is here and it's centered. But we also need to center our letters. So back in VS Code, we're going to set the unordered list to have a justified content of center. We'll save that, and back in the browser, we can see that the phrase is now centered. And that concludes the end of part 2 in this 4-part series. I hope you enjoyed adding the phrase to the web page with me. If so, let me know by hitting that like button down below. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and bell icon so that you do not miss the next video in this series. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.